Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Deskside Chats podcast presented by the City of Northport. My name is Madison Hyde, and I'm the Deputy Communications Manager for the city. Everyone has a story, right? In this podcast, I'll be learning the stories of our employees right here in the City of Northport. Join me as I chat with folks from all walks of life across departments and divisions. We're building a community of unity. Get to know the staff working for you every day. Now let's lean in and chat Deskside. Northport Fire Chief Scott Titus joined me for this episode. From singing in a band called Rude Awakening to downhill skiing in France to, of course, firefighting, there's a lot to learn about Chief Titus. Whether you're driving, getting chores done around the house, or just chilling, I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Let's dive in. Hi, Chief.
Hey, Madison.
How you doing?
Fantastic. How are
I'm
you?
so glad. I am great. Thank you. So, super excited to have you on our Deskside chat. You're my first fire interview.
Fantastic. Well,
So,
that's a high bar then.
what a way to start it.
Right?
Yeah. Start it from the very, very tip top.
Okay.
I love it. So how we usually start these things is do like an origin story. As you said earlier, Scott Titus the baby. So where did it begin? Where were you born? Tell me the beginnings.
So Scott Titus the baby. I was born in Easton, Pennsylvania, which is kind of Allentown, Bethlehem area. I did not live there. That's where I was born. My grandparents lived there.
Okay.
And so I started being really difficult with my mom on my very first day because I was 2 months premature. So we were on a trip visiting my grandparents. And if you knew anything about Easton, Pennsylvania, as I grew up, there was a building there that had a giant Dixie cup on the top of it. That's how I always knew we were getting close. But we were visiting my grandparents. My mom was, of course, she was pregnant. She was 7 months pregnant. And I decided I had had enough and I was ready to come out.
Okay.
And so they called me the Easton Flash. That was my nickname.
A go-getter from the beginning.
I was 2 pounds and 3 ounces.
Oh my
tiny baby.
Gosh.
Put me in an incubator, and they really didn't have a whole lot of. They thought I probably wasn't going to make it. Back then, they didn't have all the
highfalutin,
stuff.
fancy
so
stuff.
just
Yeah.
put me in an incubator like you'd put a baby chick in right now.
Yeah,
That's kind of
right.
how the technology was back then. And they said, well, we'll hope for the best. And so here I am. I've made up for it, obviously.
Yeah, right. Stop. I didn't mean to say right. I didn't know what you were saying.
Yeah, no. It's okay. So, so it was a big surprise. I was cord was wrapped around my neck. They had to do an emergency C-section, so I was the last.
Jeez,
I was the third baby of three. I was last natural born. My mom couldn't have kids after that, and so then I have two adopted sisters that are younger than me. So
Okay.
I'm one of five.
1 of 5. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you started in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Then how did you end up down here?
So when I got into my high school years,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, I was a little bit of a challenging child, and much like I started out as I got into high school, my mom I think got to the point one day and she told my dad either he goes or I go, and I was in 8th grade and going into 9th grade, and my dad was a really smart guy, and so he decided to send me away, which was the best decision he ever made because my mom stayed with him and they got to live without me being a pain for a little while.
Right.
So I got sent away to boarding school,
Okay.
about an hour outside of Philadelphia. And for me, it was great because it was like college 5 years early. Because I could
sure.
never get away with anything in my house. My mom and dad were very strict, but at school I could get around the rules and stuff. It was great. So I had a good time. They had a good time while I was there.
Okay, good.
They moved to Florida.
Okay.
And so I stayed up in Pennsylvania until I graduated, and then I moved down here.
And it was this area,
After
or was
that.
it somewhere else?
Sarasota.
Sarasota. Okay,
Yep,
so
yep.
this area.
Actually, actually Nokomis. My parents moved out onto, they were out on Casey Key. So
Got it.
I
Okay.
graduated. I moved down here for a little while. And actually, I think it was a real little while, a couple of weeks. I was living at home, and my dad said,
Okay.
my house, my rules. And I said, cool, I'll go to my own house and make
Bye.
my own rules.
Yeah.
And so I moved out
No thanks.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I ended up down here.
Okay. All right. So then, now you mentioned a rock band.
Rock bands.
I need to know about that. I'm sure, was it in that era of like high school or was it later?
It was in high school. So,
Okay.
Yeah, it was, our band name was Rude Awakening.
Ooh. Okay. So what genre? What was happening?
So we did Cocaine by Eric Clapton, Love Removal Machine by The Firm. We did
you started
Born to
out
Be
with-
Wild by
we-
Steppenwolf. It was kind of all over.
By saying we did cocaine.
Oh, yeah, no, that didn't
And I was
come out
like,
right. I'm sorry.
no, Chief,
Yeah,
no. Chief. Cocaine by Eric Clapton,
Yes,
to be
thank you for
clear.
the clarification there.
Yeah.
Really
Okay.
difficult.
So
So
you
classic
had a
rock
bit of
era.
a, all right. And what did you play? Did you sing?
I was the lead singer.
Lead singer?
Yeah. Now, when
Why
I
have
say
I
we were
never
a rock
heard
band,
you
well,
sing?
Yeah, because I'm not that good.
You weren't that good in
We
Rude
had a
Awakening?
blast. No, yeah, we had fun.
Yeah.
It was all about having fun. So
Sure.
we played a couple school dances, and
Oh, that's fun.
we did a concert out in the middle of the campus one year for Spring Fling or something. And, yeah, it was
Oh,
about it.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good time in high
was.
school.
It
You
was
don't have
fun.
to be like amazing just playing in high school.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't making a career out of it.
Well, I think that it's good that you chose the career you went to, which is going to leads me into my next thing. So has this kind of always been on your mind to go into the fire service, or did something steer you in this direction? Is it a family thing? What made you start this track?
No, so I actually, it's funny, as I said, I moved down here for a short while, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have a sense of direction.
Right.
I ended up down here because I wanted to go to college in Colorado, and
Okay.
I figured I could be a ski bum, go to University of Colorado, and my dad, again, I think I told you before, he was a smart guy, so
Yeah.
he said, if you move down here and go to community college for a year, and you maintain A's and B's, I'll send you to any college you want to go to. And I said, no problem. So I came
Easy.
down here, and I did 2 semesters at what then was Manatee Community College.
Okay.
I passed 2 classes, both were English, and
Okay.
I quickly decided college wasn't the path for me.
I feel like that probably wasn't a really good ratio of passing
Yeah.
and failing.
So I made some, poor decisions. Like I said, I moved out of the house. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was driving one day, and I was driving to go see my parents, and I was cutting through a road in Nokomis, and there was a bunch of guys standing out in front of a building they looked to be about my age. And so I pulled up, said, hey, what do you guys do for fun? And the guy looked at me kind of like I was stupid. He points up. He's like, well, we fight fire. And that was Tacoma's Fire Department. It's a volunteer fire department. And that gentleman actually now is Chief Lane. He's our deputy chief.
Wow.
So that day,
Okay.
I was like, oh. He said, well, did you ever think about being a firefighter? And I said, well, I guess everybody did when they were little, but I never really seriously considered it. He said,
Right.
well, we're doing a training burn on Saturday. Why don't you come by? I said, okay. He gave me an address. Do you know where this is? I said, yeah. And so I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday. So he said, show up at 9 o'clock. So that Saturday morning, I got up, got my car, I drove there. Went and found him, and he brought me over to his truck, and he, held up a pair of pants. Yeah, these look like they'll fit you in a jacket, and he put an air pack on me and a helmet, and
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm in full firefighter gear now, a pair of boots. He's got me all dressed up, shows me how the air pack works, hands me a fire nozzle, shows me how it works, and put a guy on my 6, I say so, behind me, and his name is Mike D'Angelo. He's actually with Boca Grande Fire Department now, but he went in and lit the house on fire and said, all right, go in and put it out. And this is back in the days when,
What?
you kind of get away with stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I said, okay.
right.
So there was a piece of plywood up over the kitchen door. So I went up and I'm like, I've seen this in movies. This is great. So I went up and I kicked the plywood in. Well, instead of falling inward, the plywood kind of, it slid out from the bottom.
Oh,
And so all this smoke starts coming out, and it's coming out right in my face. I can't see anything.
Right.
So the guy behind me is yelling, get down on your knees. So I get down on my knee. He's like, start spraying the fire. So I'm spraying water. What I don't realize is the water's hitting the tube, hitting the plywood that had slid down. It's not going on the fire at all. The smoke's coming right up over that plywood like a ramp right into my face. So I can't see anything. It's melting the stickers on my helmet. The guy behind me is just screaming. He's a loud Italian guy. He's got great personality, and he's yelling at me the whole time with a lot of words that I can't say. So he grabs me by the shoulder, and he takes me and he shoves me inside. So we go into this zero visibility, can't see anything, go in.
right.
We end up going down the hallway. We end up putting this fire out. I came out, and I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and I said, this is what I got to do with my life. This is it. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
That isn't
cool.
how I thought that story was going to, because for how, it wasn't going exactly your way, that's cool that you still came out feeling invincible,
Oh,
even
it was
if it
like,
didn't go perfectly.
Nope, I was like, this is what I have to do. I found my calling. I was
Right.
100% convinced that moment. I've never looked back. I went home. I remember actually went home to my house. I changed clothes. I dressed in something nice. I drove to my dad's house, and I told him, Dad, I'm going to be a firefighter. And he was mad as hell. He said 9-year-olds want to be firefighters, not 19-year-olds. You need to do something with your life. And it's so funny because when I got pinned as the chief down here, my dad came down, he put my badge on, and I told that same story. And my dad got tears in his eyes, all upset. And I let him off the hook, though, and I told him, I said, listen, on the heels of a whole bunch of other bad decisions that I had made,
right.
It was not shocking that he figured this is not a great one as well. Of course, he's very proud of me. And
of course he is. He's got to give a hard time, though, right?
Had an amazing career and found something that I'm so passionate about. My dad and my grandfather always said, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
And, so again, I went home and I told him that. I went back to what then was Nokomis Fire Department. Mm-hmm. Scott Lane was the fire chief at the time. He was 26 or 27 years old as the fire chief.
Okay.
And I hung out with him nearly every day. I was working odd jobs in construction and landscaping, and every minute I wasn't doing that, I was hanging out.
Right, just trying to learn.
I signed up for fire school. Went to fire school. I went to EMT school. Went straight into paramedic school. I decided I was going to keep going until I got hired.
Yeah.
And that was it. Then I finished paramedic school in August of '93, and I came and tested down here in December and got hired in December of '93.
And you've been here ever since.
Been here ever since. Never looked
December
back.
'93.
And I really didn't want to work for the city of Northport. Actually, I came down here just because I wanted a job. And they were hiring.
Okay.
And,
this is going to be like your jumping off point or something.
Yeah, no, that was like, okay, well, let me get started. So
right.
At the time, there was a guy, Jody McCord, who ended up being, working his way up through the ranks with our department as well. But at the time, he was a firefighter. He volunteered at Nokomis, and he was down here. And he said, hey, we're hiring. You got to come down and talk to the chief. So I came down, I talked to the chief, introduced myself. Went back, I saw him the next week. Jody said, you should go talk to the chief. I said, yeah. And he goes, go see him again next week. And I said, why? He's like, you want a job? And I said, yeah. He goes, go see him again next week.
Yep.
So I come down the next week, introduce myself again. He's like, I just met you last week. What are you doing here? I just felt like I should come by, and somebody told me I should come down again, so I left.
Right.
The next week, Jody McCord tells me, you need to go down and see the chief again. I said, I'm not going down there again. He looked at me like I was stupid last time. He goes, you want a job? And I said, yeah. And he goes, go down there again.
I can hear it in his accent,
too.
Like
go down there again. Just do it. Don't ask me questions. So I did. So I did this 6 weeks in a row. And then they were hiring, and it was Chief Auclair that I kept coming down to see. And I think he told me at the time, he said, just somebody hire this guy so he doesn't come to my office
I don't need to be introduced again, please.
Paul Caskey was the fire chief at the time, who he still lives here in the city. And the department was really small then. I think there was 5 people per shift, so we had total 15 firefighters when I got picked up.
Gosh, times have changed.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
It was pretty amazing. We had a lot of undeveloped area, a lot of fires in the early years.
Right.
East, it would take us 20 minutes to get to a brush fire sometimes.
I believe it.
Because we were responding from one station. So
yeah.
After being here for a very short while, I realized the city's going to grow, and I really liked it.
Can make a real difference in such a young city.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's cool. So what's it been like now from, the early 90s to now, like serving the same city, but watching it blow up like population wise? Like how is,
I'm sure
incredible. You've learned a whole lot.
I've learned so
obviously.
much. Yeah. I'm really blessed. I had a lot of good mentors and a lot of people that contributed to where I've gotten. I tell everybody I'm not smarter than anybody else. I had some doors open for me at different times that maybe other people didn't have. And sometimes some of the promotions I took was because I didn't want to work for somebody else, as opposed to the fact that I really wanted to be promoted. I never really aspired to be the fire chief, but I'm of course very honored to be and to represent our people. But
sure.
Yeah, wow, it's changed so much. I mean, we had the worst equipment. We had we had a lean-to metal building that was falling apart. The city back then, it was really just in its infancy stages.
Right. Yep.
The department hadn't been established for that long. The old story of how our department was formed was Chief Caskey wanted to start an ambulance service and start ALS service.
Right.
And he couldn't hire anybody because nobody wanted to work here. So he basically founded the Bad News Bears. So he went out and found paramedics that had gotten fired from multiple other places, and they basically had nowhere left to go. And he said, I'll give you your last shot. And he hired 6 paramedics and brought them here, and it was a mess for a while.
I'm sure it was a lot of learning, a lot of figuring things out.
When I first got hired, the hospitals would see us coming on the ambulance and be like, oh my God, it's Northport, And we quickly, over, a few short years as we started to grow, kind of changed that, which was cool to see that change. I started working in the hospital in the ER at Venice, which helped a little bit, so that helped us in our transports north. And then I actually moved south, and we had another medic that worked at Fawcett. that helped kind of establish that relationship. And then as we grew, obviously, people coming up through the system and making changes. And, it's pretty amazing now to feel like our people have really created this, self-fulfilling machine, basically. And
right.
I think we're a department that a lot of people look to now to set the standard, and we don't feel like we're, second to anybody. And there's no bad
right.
news bears. It's really, really
much different now.
Yeah. It really is. It's awesome.
And and not only are is the department like a well-oiled machine, but you guys are super family-oriented too. Yeah. And that's a big deal for you, right? Is everybody looks out for each other. It's just one big family.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't think about it, but we spend more time with each other, especially when you're on shift. You spend more time with those people that you're on shift with than you really do your own family members.
Right. Sure.
I remember going to a training burn when I was younger, when I was a lieutenant, and went to a training burn at Nokomis one day. I invited my wife and kids down, and they came down to watch it, and they were so excited to see everything and see the fire. And we knocked a hole in the wall so they could actually look into this concrete building, and they could see us, the firefighters fighting fire and doing stuff. It was super cool. They thought it was a blast. And everything was good. And they went home. Everything was good. And I got home that night, and my wife was really upset. I said, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "What's wrong?" Finally, I got it out of her. She's like, "Well, I figured out today." She goes, "I think you love the fire department and those guys more than you love us."
Oh, no.
And it hit me like a brick wall. And I was like, "Honey, of course that's not true."
Yeah, right.
She's like, "I've never seen you so happy." And I'm like, it's a different kind of happy.
It is.
It's and she understands that now. Of course, we have a wonderful relationship. Our kids are great, but it's a very, family-oriented atmosphere. And when you got to put it's not like we have our life on the line every day, but that when you do have to put your life on the line, you're with people that you trust and that that they're going to be there, and that's a special bond, and it's kind of it's different.
It's totally different. Fire family is totally different from
but
it's still all family,
absolutely
combined. Yeah, and that's what was going to be kind of my next question was family. So how long have you and your wife been together?
We just celebrated our 22nd anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
And you have. Between how many kids total is there?
We have a mini Brady bunch.
Yes,
so
that's what I had to know.
That's okay. We
total
have
family.
We have a his, hers, and ours. So I have a daughter, and she has a son, my stepson, and then we have two together.
Okay.
So 27, 26, 20, and 19.
And the youngest one graduated just a couple of years ago from high school? A year ago?
A year ago.
A year ago.
Yeah, and he just started today. It's his first day with Charlotte County Fire Department. So he's...
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So another firefighter in the family. That's cool.
And he was real difficult, just like I was. And I told my wife, I'm not going to send him away. If I can just get him out of high school alive, I promise you.
That's an accomplishment.
He's going to be okay. Right? So he started volunteering at Nokomis, and much like I did, he almost lived there for the last 7 or 8 months.
Sure.
And got a lot of experience and just got the bug. He loves it. And
that's great.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm sure it's fun to watch. Like not just your son, but like watch the younger ones that are coming in, just like you. However many years ago. Like we just had 8, 9 recruits start like a month ago or something like that.
Yeah, they're on they're on their 5th week now. And I never pushed my kids to do anything. Actually, my son, I wasn't going to push him to be a firefighter. He came to me one day in high school and said, "Dad, did you know that you can go to fire school in high school?" And I said,
"Why, yes.
Yes, I did." "Would you like to go and learn about the program?" "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, this is fantastic." So,
sweet.
Yeah, so it worked out.
That's cool. Wow, I love that. That's cool to have a family legacy like that. I know there's people at the department now, like Ron Jakonski and his son are working there together. Yep. And in the past, there's been a couple other ones. So that's so fun to have that kind of legacy. All right, so now I know how much you love fire rescue, but let's leave for just a second. What do you like to do when you're not working? Which I'm sure is a very small chunk of time for you. When you're not working, what do you like to do?
Well, I like to hang out with my wife. She's my best friend. So I like to go out on a boat. Which
Lovely.
We've not done a lot lately. We bought a new house a couple of months ago.
Okay.
New to us, but it's an old house.
Sure.
It's 40 years old. So most of my downtime is spent doing odd jobs around there, trying to get things...
sprucing it up.
Yeah, fixing the house up and things like that, which I enjoy doing that, so that's good.
Yeah.
And, that's about it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you fish while you're out there? Or is it more like...
It's more just kind of cruise. I like to fish. She's not a big fisher, so...
Yeah.
If I go out with my son,
that's cool too. That's a lot of what my family and I do is just cruising.
I can go out and cruise for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Is there like a certain area you like to go the most? Or just...
No, so we go out in Nokomis, and so sometimes we'll go south and go out the jetties, depending on how things are. And like this past weekend, we went out the jetties, ran north all the way up to Longboat Pass, and came in Longboat Pass, and then came back down the Intercoastal, and it was just a kind of a nice loop. It took us a little while. We anchored offshore up by Longboat, had lunch, and swam a little bit, and then
that's nice.
Came in, yeah.
That sounds great. I didn't know if you had like a restaurant haunt that you guys like always like make it to, or that kind of thing. But,
no, there's a couple places that we like to go, but mostly a lot of times we'll stop and pick up Public Subs on the way and have the cooler, and
that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And sometimes there's a group. Sometimes the group that'll meet up there by Longboat, they'll anchor their boats up there, or they'll go out to Stump Pass or something like that.
Oh,
sometimes
cool! And all
and
like tether together, and
yeah,
so that's fun.
We haven't done that in a little while, but that's always a good time.
Love that, absolutely. Yeah. All right, so now, I have my questions that I end every interview with.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Probably not.
Okay. First, favorite movie.
I knew you were going to ask me questions like this. And, I think I'm one of those people, like, I enjoy everything to the fullest. So I always try to go to, like, what's the last thing?
Sure. Yeah, it could be, like, the one you've enjoyed the most recently. Whatever you think.
I'm trying to think of good classics probably that I enjoyed. I'll say, you said it earlier, but it's really true, Forrest Gump. And you haven't watched really the whole thing?
I haven't. We're just getting around. Yeah, I have to.
I think you need to take care of that.
I feel like every interview, except for a few, have been just like, what?
Yeah.
So.
It's a classic. Like, you definitely have to.
I know a lot of the lines and stuff from it. Like, I know the general premise. I just haven't watched the whole thing from start to finish.
I like old movies, too. Like, I like, old John Wayne, old Clint Eastwood, some of the old Lee...
Like Dirty Harry and all that stuff.
Yeah, some of the old Lee Marvin movies. Like, some of the old Army movies, Bridge over River Kwai, and...
Okay.
Lots of stuff.
What's the most recent movie you've seen, like new movie that you've seen? And it could just be new to you, or like what's the latest movie you've watched? I guess. Mine was Thor. Mine was the new Thor.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I think there's one out right now. I'm going to get the name wrong. I want to say it's called Contract Killer, but it's not. It's something like that.
Oh. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. I don't know.
Great. Okay. Well, just moving on.
Just remember how I remember the past really well, but you asked me about recent things I can't remember. I
work.
think there's a sickness that I have to do with that. Maybe it's coming on. So.
Okay, well, we're going to risk it for these last couple, and then we'll...
Okay.
Yeah. So, TV show.
So, I am watching Ted Lasso right now, which I thought was going to be the dumbest show ever. Everybody has told me, oh, you got to watch it. And every time I saw a clip, I'm like, that looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And now you're hooked?
Yeah, I'm completely addicted. His wit and his little sayings and everything. Yeah, it's fantastic. If you haven't watched it, you have to.
Of course I haven't watched it.
You haven't?
No.
See?
Is this surprising?
Up until 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have, and you couldn't have talked me into it. And finally, so many people that I know said, like, you have to just watch one episode.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I'll watch it. I probably won't. Yeah. I'm like a documentary / food show type person. Like, okay. I don't.
Well, yeah, I was too. So I don't watch the food shows anymore because I watched a couple too many episodes.
It's too dangerous.
Yeah, I was trying to look like, what's the guy's Guy Fieri? So I was trying to look like Guy Fieri. I have the white hair down and some of the other stuff, but yeah.
Then you had to talk about you had to dye
this. More than he did. Yeah.
You had to dye the facial hair like a yellowish blonde, and then just say,
and then leave the other parts white that are already white now.
Out of bounds all the time, or on the train to Flavortown or whatever.
This is out of yeah. Oh yeah, you can tell when he's really. You can tell when he's like faking it, like this is good, and when he really likes something.
Yeah.
Out
of bounds, Flavortown.
We went to actually his restaurant in San Diego. My wife and I did. And
it was
really? Real good. Yeah.
Oh
yeah, they had. What do they call those beer can nachos or whatever that they make?
Yes, and they lift.
Oh my God, they were to die for, and their Bloody Marys. They brought out a Bloody Mary that it was.
Did it just have a meal on it?
Yes,
because that's how in Wisconsin it was. That's the only way I accept it.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I'm now actually, you know what? I'm going to divert. I'm not going to end it yet because I want to know: are there any other fun places that you've traveled that stand out to you?
Yeah, so I have probably one of my most memorable trips. I went with 13 of my friends my senior year of high school to Chamonix, France. So
To where?
Chamonix, France. The
Oh,
French Alps.
Chamonix, France. Mm-hmm. I thought that was all one word that you said.
No.
Okay, wow.
So my big sport when I was in high school, I raced. I was a downhill ski racer. So we went over there and raced, and we spent 2 weeks in Europe, skied the French Alps, and it was amazing.
That's unreal.
It was unreal.
I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know about the downhill skiing.
Yeah.
Most importantly, wow.
Yeah, it was super cool. So imagine at that age with 13 of your really good friends, it got a little crazy sometimes.
A little rowdy?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, of course, as it should, right?
Yeah. They ran out of alcohol on the flight over. They literally ran out of alcohol. Nothing left. Yeah.
So it was like ski, come back, do whatever, sleep, wake up, and do it again.
Yes. And they had the most amazing hot dogs in town. So every time we got off the ski slopes, my buddy Gary and I, we would go buy a bottle of vodka. Probably shouldn't talk about it. That's okay.
It's bad. We know what, right? Whatever.
We'd buy a bottle of vodka, and then we'd stop. So they had these hot dog stands on the corner. And for a hot dog, they would cut a French loaf of bread in half. So it's like a giant roll. And they had like a hot poker, and they would take and put the bread on the hot poker so it would like make a hole in the middle. Mm-hmm. They put spicy mustard down in there, and then slide in like this long, super long hot dog that would fill the whole thing. They were amazing.
That sounds delicious.
So we would do shots of vodka and have hot dogs, and then we would go to dinner, and then we would go out, and then we would wake up and ski again the next day. Yeah,
and just kind of rinse and repeat for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
you guys must have been like a little bit tired. Coming back. Yeah. From that.
So that was great. I went to Mexico. I've been to Mexico City and Las Estacas and Cuernavaca. Las Estacas is a freshwater spring, and if you know Louis Gossett Jr. and Chuck Norris, they were filming a movie there at the time. It was called Firewalker.
Oh.
So I met them and got their signatures.
What?
It was phenomenal.
Cool.
Louis Gossett Jr., nicest guy ever. Chuck Norris was not so nice.
Oh.
He was super standoffish.
He's too important.
Yeah. I mean, he might be better now, but we were just a group that were there, and Louis Gossett Jr. came over and sat down with us and for 30 minutes ate and picnicked with us.
Oh my gosh, that's super cool. What a fun memory to have.
I've been to California a couple times. San Diego's beautiful. Mm-hmm. We used to go to Canada every summer, and we had a little cabin on a lake with no water, no electricity.
Where in Canada did you go?
It was closest to a little town called Belleville. I don't even really remember. I remember we was it was back logging trail roads, like an hour off the beaten path.
Right.
And you get to a lake, and then you had to take a boat over to where the cabin was.
Oh my gosh.
And we had a pump that you would pump water up to a tank, and so it was gravity-fed water, like in the cabin. But that's it. No, like the stove ran off of propane.
Wow.
No lights. Everything was better. Flashlights and.
Oh my gosh.
But you could go out in the morning.
It's a little too roughing it for
6 a.m. You could go out and hit the water with a fishing pole and catch a bass first cast every day.
Well, that's fun.
It was awesome.
That's fun. But the off-the-grid stuff, I don't know about that. Almost off-the-grid stuff. I don't know about that. Okay, thank you for diverting. I'm glad I asked that, because then I learned about you downhill skiing in France.
Yeah.
Not a thing I would have ever guessed. Okay, final. Ice cream flavor.
Anything with Heath Bar Crunch in it.
Anything with Heath Bar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any... So there isn't like a specific brand or place. You just like that wherever it is.
Ben & Jerry's has a really good one.
Okay.
Has a couple, like Heath Bar or Heath Toffee Crunch that's...
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. I think the general has usually been mint chocolate chip when I've asked that question.
See, yeah, no, I'm
Or
out.
I don't eat ice cream, which is blasphemous in my opinion.
Yeah, there's
something wrong with that.
They might need help.
We'll talk about that after. All right. Well, I think we've come to the end. Thank you, Chief, for joining me on here. It was really fun to get to know you.
Yes, well, thank you. When do we get to? Can we reverse this?
Turn the tables?
Yeah.
Perhaps. I've thought about that. I'm sure everyone listening really wants to know everything about me.
Okay.
We can't hear their feedback, but I'm sure they're saying it right now.
Well, the great thing, what you should do is maybe just keep getting new people to interview you, because then it could just be all about Madison all the time, but
as
with
it should
different
be.
Interviewers.
Then it won't be Deskside Chats. It'll just be talking to Madison and then show who's interviewing me.
You see who gets. Everybody will get different information.
That's true. That's true. I'll think about that.
And then know people are paying attention too, because you could just say something different one day and the next. And
you're right.
If they don't call you out on it, then they're not listening to your chats.
It's a good barometer of who's actually caring.
For sure.
I like it. I'll jot that down. Well, thank you, Chief. And I will talk to all you guys next week. See you later.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.